Hello everyone, and welcome to the Guild of Artists and Artisans second webinar. The intention of this new webinar series is to offer educational opportunities for our artist members to help during these difficult times. Our topic of discussion today is website building and e-commerce using WordPress. Today we are joined by Jim Parker. Jim spent close to 30 years in the advertising business, first in Chicago and then in Detroit and then back in Chicago. During that time, he worked on major accounts such as International Harvester, McDonald's, Chrysler, Kmart, FTD, Motorola, and Jim Beam brands. From print to interactive design, Jim has extensive experience helping others build their brands. He gave up the rat race to focus on photography in 2004 and has been doing shows full-time since then. Jim's experience with web design goes back all the way to the 90s. When he worked with Chrysler to develop the first Chrysler financial website. He went on to build sites for Jim Beam and did interactive designs for Motorola. Parker was managing director of the Wirestone Chicago office, and web design has evolved considerably since then, and new technology makes it both easy and hard to keep up. So welcome, Jim. Thank you so much for being here. If anybody has questions, you can use the chat box to type in your question, and we will answer all questions near the end of the webinar, just to make sure that we can get most of the information in that we need to. We will be recording the entirety of today's webinar, and a link will be sent to your inbox to review it again and again for you to just have in your wheelhouse. If you have any questions for the Guild, please feel free to email me. My email address is nicole@theguild.org. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Jim. So, all right, Jim, it's all yours.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm going to stumble my way through this here. Try to make it as understandable as possible. I'm starting from the very beginning. I'll take you through setting up a website on WordPress, from getting your domain name all the way through to setting up a store. And there's lots of things that I'm sure I will leave out, and hopefully we'll be able to get through it. It's a fairly long presentation. It's a visual presentation. I've got a keynote presentation. I'm going to switch between that and the web here. So let me just switch to sharing my screen. Let's see if I can get this to work. All right, what are we showing here? Okay. Does everybody see that introduction slide there? There's a guy staring out over the Green River. That was from a trip I took last May. I canoed down this river in Utah for about 50 miles. And this is from my own website, which I just redeveloped. And I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about my experience, telling you what you need to know to build a website using the world's most popular content management system, WordPress. So for those of you that don't want to listen to this 50-minute presentation, I'm going to go through what is WordPress, getting it set up on a host, kind of the structure and design of it, and the nuts and bolts of building a site, how you can add e-commerce to your site, and then what you do in the back end. It's definitely a work in progress. And along the way, I'm going to use a site that I built expressly for this webinar for a fictional gallery. It's called Art Tribes. So let's get into it. What is WordPress? Well, it's an open source platform built on PHP and MySQL. PHP is a server-side scripting language that is used to develop static websites or dynamic websites or web applications. And I bet a bunch of you are wondering, what the heck is PHP? Well, it stands for Personal Hypertext Preprocessor. PHP can only be understood and interpreted on a server that actually has PHP installed. WordPress is really extendable through the use of themes and plugins. It can do just about anything you want it to do. It does have a bit of a learning curve, though. Be prepared to spend some time figuring out how to do things. It's used by over 30% of the content management-based systems in the world. 55% was one figure I saw for market share. 70 million new posts monthly, 27 posts every second, and 54,000 plugins, of which at least half of them are worthless. So I'm guessing that at least some of you have built a website before. Maybe you built it on Weebly or you built it in Dreamweaver. In the old days, we used to have to build it in an editor and then preview it on a website after we uploaded the code, and then we just went back and forth like that, pushing our code until we finally got to look the way we wanted it to. In WordPress, you can make changes in the back end and preview it immediately and publish it immediately, or you can publish it later. You can schedule your posts. The work done on the back end is immediately reflected in the front end. If you work on your live site, a lot of people do, that's known as cowboy coding. It's easy to break stuff, so I'll talk about using a staging server just a little bit further down the line. And one other thing that you can do nowadays is many of the frameworks that WordPress has, you can edit on the front end. You can actually edit in the browser using a block-based kind of a paradigm, and it makes it really, really easy to see what you're doing. And the frameworks are also responsive. You can see what it'll look like on a phone. You can see what it's going to look like on an iPad and on your desktop. So why WordPress? Well, there's some advantages to using WordPress. First off, it's free. You can download it and install it. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's constantly updated. It's a standalone tool, but it was built as a blogging platform. So if you want to blog, it's perfect for that. There are lots and lots of free and paid extensions known as plugins that add functionality to your site. And finally, there is lots of help online through YouTube and community groups. A Google search will find multiple answers to a question. Some of them might work better for you than others, but be prepared to constantly go looking for answers as you try to figure out what to do with your own site. So how do you get started? Well, you probably won't need a level. These are some of the tools that you're going to need to build a website. I put together a little checklist for you. You need a computer with internet access. I know this sounds kind of obvious, but without a computer, it's really hard to do it. It is possible, although not recommended, to do it with an iPhone or an iPad, because you can edit WordPress using a mobile device. You need a hosting service. It's useful to have a domain name that matches your brand. It's not absolutely necessary. An email account that matches your domain name. And most importantly, a willingness to learn and maybe some time to invest. If you want to sell on your website, you're going to need an e-commerce plugin like WooCommerce. There's a few ways to set it up, and I'll cover them a little bit later. You need a way to get payments, and almost all of us have now got Square and PayPal. Stripe also works pretty well, and there are a whole bunch of them that you can use, but these are the three most common. You also need an SSL layer, which makes sure that you get the little lock up in the address bar and secures the site. You can't run an e-commerce site without an SSL layer. And I'll talk about that just a little bit later as well. And then most importantly, you're going to need product information. You need images of your product so people know what they look like. You need descriptions and prices, packaging details, how much does it weigh, what kind of box, and a host of other details. And gathering all this stuff takes a bit of time. So should you use your own domain name? You can create a free site on WordPress.com, but it won't be a custom domain name. It'll be a name like yourname.wordpress.com. And if you plan to sell off of that site, you are going to need a custom domain name on your own web host, because the free site on WordPress.com doesn't let you sell. So if you want to sell it, be prepared to spend 15 bucks to get jimmyparkersart.com or whatever floats your boat. My recommendation is, for a basic web portfolio, you can use WordPress. It has that free plan. You don't get a lot for free. For any type of store, you need to register your own domain name and set up a hosting account with one of those major providers. And WordPress and WooCommerce do offer multiple hosting plans that are managed, and they're kind of expensive, and I'll talk about that in a little bit too. So how do you get a domain name? Well, first off, try to figure out what kind of name you want. If it's going to be your name or the name of your studio. You can go to whois.com and do a search for it. You can go to any domain name provider like GoDaddy or Network Solutions or domain.com, do a search there. Once you find a name that's available, they make it pretty easy for you to give them their credit card and add it to your account, and Bob's your uncle, or bob.com is your uncle. And the next step is to set up a host. You need to create an account with one of the major hosting providers like SiteGround or Flywheel or Bluehost. I have been with a few of them. I am currently with SiteGround, and it's super easy to get a site set up. They provide WordPress installation for you right on their server. It's like a one-click thing, and it doesn't cost you anything, and it's set up, and the database is set up. And your hosting costs are pretty cheap nowadays. There are lots of people selling good web hosting for about $5 or $6 a month, and it goes all the way up to $40 a month, $45 a month, depending on the host and what kind of features they throw in for free. GoDaddy is currently running a promotion on Facebook that I saw. It's $1 for 3 months, and then after that it renews to $30 a month, and they throw in a whole bunch of WooCommerce extensions that normally would cost $80, $50, $30 a year. And if you need those features, it might be worth checking out. Otherwise, probably going to SiteGround or Bluehost and doing a basic site setup and then installing your own plugins as you need them is probably a better bet. Also, check when you're looking for hosting to see if they give you an SSL certificate for free. Because when I moved away from GoDaddy, they were charging $125 for one site. SiteGround will give you one for your site for free. You have to renew it every 3 months, but it doesn't cost you anything, and that is a huge bonus. If you want to set up WordPress on your own, they provide the full installation instructions for free. You can do it on your host. You set up a database and link it to the install. You go through phpMyAdmin, which is a website that hooks into your database. And there's a whole bunch to it. It doesn't take long, but it's not particularly easy or intuitive. And because there's so many hosts nowadays that'll do it for you as part of your installation, I would just recommend go with the hosted installation and save yourself that initial headache. If you want to learn how to do it, you can go to wordpress.org and do a search for install WordPress, and they will show you their famous 5-minute installation. So my personal recommendation is to go with SiteGround. It's not hugely complicated. It's a one-click installation, like I said. You can get an email name for your domain. So if you have jameswparker.com, you can get jimmyp@jameswparker.com. That doesn't cost you anything. It gives you 500 megabytes worth of storage for that email account. And it's semi-managed in that they will update the server software, and they do a certain amount of security on the back end. And they also provide some speed enhancements. I like SiteGround. So what is managed hosting that I just recommended? Well, it means you don't have to keep track of those background PHP patches. They will do it for you. They take care of the security on the back end, and it generally costs a little bit more. With SiteGround, their basic packages are managed to a certain extent. All good. So now you got your host set up. Well, now what? You got to install more stuff. You got to put a theme on there. You're probably going to need some plugins to do specific things. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. A theme is what determines the overall look and feel of your site. When you first install WordPress and go to the back end, it installs 3 basic themes. They're dated for each year, and frankly, they're pretty ugly. You can get a lot of themes for free from Envato or Theme Forest, and just doing a search will turn up tons and tons of free themes. Frameworks are a little more complicated, but they also make the creation of websites a lot easier. SiteGround offers Elementor templates as part of their onboard process. So when you first open up your SiteGround site, you'll see a thing, do you want to install this or that? And I usually bypass that because I like a different framework. And I have a whole list of resources in a handout that's posted on my website, and I will give you the URL for that at the end of the presentation. So how does a framework differ from a theme? Themes have evolved to be competitive with some of the other block builders like Wix and Squarespace and Weebly. A framework is really just a full system that expands the type of blocks available to you as a web designer. From contact forms to galleries to blurbs and testimonials, a framework basically just adds another level of functionality and simplification to your design process. They make it easier to design a page, but there's also a lot more to learn. The framework that I use, Divi, probably has 40 or 50 different modules that you can add, and it's a little bit bewildering trying to figure out which one is going to serve your purpose. So Elegant has Divi, there is Elementor, and then there is Beaver Builder. These are the three kind of major plugins, that the major plugin theme framework type of things. Genesis is another theme that's been around a little bit longer that Studio Press put together, and there are many, many others. Pricing structures for a theme typically is a yearly subscription model. One site will cost you maybe $39 or $59. Several sites might cost you $100. Or if you're a professional building a lot of sites, there is another tier for that. Many of these frameworks also have a perpetual license. You can pay once and use it forever. Now you can download it and demo it typically for 30 days. Paying the subscription fee gives you one huge advantage, and that is that when they update the theme, it gives you access to their theme updates, their code fixes, their blocking security holes, or doing other things, adding functionality all the time. So typically you pay for a year and you get free updates for that year. If you buy a lifetime subscription, it'll update for as long as you want to use it. Like yearly, the one I use, Divi, it's $89, and lifetime access is $249. But they typically run sales so you can get it for cheaper. Plugins extend the functionality. They're little bits of code. They include galleries and image processing, e-commerce, and data collection in the guise of forms. There are site performance plugins, social media integration plugins, backup plugins. Pretty much every function that you want can be covered by a plugin of some sort. So this is what the back-end dashboard looks like. Let's see here, will it link to it? No. When you first start out in WordPress, the back end, you get this onboarding thing where you can view the site. They make it really kind of simplified for you. On the left here are all of the various controls in WordPress. And at the top is a separate menu bar that tells me the name of the site. I'm going to load the site here. This is the actual back end of arttribes.com. And so all of these little sections here are things that you do within WordPress. And you can look at the site, you can manage your pages, you can change the design once you've uploaded a theme. And there's a whole bunch of other interesting stuff that comes up on this special homepage. The next thing that you want to do is install some plugins. Typically, I will install Akismet to manage spam on comments. If you have a blog, after a while, you'll start collecting all kinds of junk. And Akismet does a very good job of filtering that out. Jetpack is a suite from WordPress that used to be more useful. I use it less now. There's a gallery plugin. There is a media library plugin that creates folders. There's a backup utility. There's a security utility that is in the days of hackers now. I just got an email from WordFence about a fairly serious security hole. They do a good job of notifying you if something needs updating or if there are some security issues that you need to deal with. And the list goes on and on and on. Like I said, Kismet checks your comments and contact form submissions. Updraft, I can't live without it. It does a separate backup of my site and stores it off of the host server. So if I need to roll back or I've lost content, I can do that. The Real Media Library helps me keep the images in my media library straight, and you're gonna find after time that you collect a whole lot of grimble and cruft in there, and this kind of helps you keep it organized. And then finally, a way to crunch all of your images so that they don't load as slowly as my site does right now. So those are just a few of the plugins. The next thing you want to do is actually install the theme. And I'm going to concentrate on Divi today. As I mentioned earlier, there are other sites that provide equally good frameworks. I'm most familiar with Divi. It comes from elegantthemes.com. And the way that you load it is you go into, let's see here. I keep touching the wrong thing. You go into the back end. And these here are the sites that were loaded, the 3 WordPress sites. And then you can actually activate your Divi theme. You go to themes and install here. Let's see if this will load up the back end here. I've already installed it here, but if I wanted to switch a theme to say 2019, I could just activate that. This will show me without actually switching it what my page looks like. And you can see all this Divi stuff here. That's probably not what I want to do. So we're not going to do that right now. I'm going to show you what the site looks like just before I go any further. This is Art Tribes. This is a template that I uploaded from Elegant Themes so that I have something to actually talk about here. As you can see, it's pretty slick, and I didn't have to do a lot of work. We have placeholders here. We have some upcoming events. We have a link to the store and the featured artist. We have some blog posts, and then at the bottom there is some contact information. And this was built in Divi. So maybe now it's time to build the site, you're saying. Not so fast, buckwheat. Well, Divi has all these different options. You can build from scratch or choose a template from their template library or clone existing pages. It's usually best to step back and just think a little bit about what you want to build and how you want your visitors to act and what you want them to see so that you have a better idea of how to build that site. And as an art director, I always start with a sketch. It doesn't have to be much anything, but it does help to have a roadmap. You know, are you going to have calls to action? Are you going to have a way to build customer relationships, forms or email opt-in or things like that? Think about it a little bit, and paper is cheaper and it's a lot quicker than WordPress. So this is kind of my basic site map for Art Tribes. On the left here, we have the home page with, I was thinking maybe a slideshow and a mission statement, and our featured artist and a calendar, and then a page with our featured artists and a page for the shop. And then in the shop flow, there's always a cart and checkout and an account, and then probably a blog of something so that we can talk about issues that are really important to us. So that is just a real basic sitemap, and that gives me some idea of what I want to build in WordPress. The first thing you want to do is get your assets together. You're going to want a logo in JPEG or PNG form. You're going to want to get all your product photography and descriptions together. That's going to form the meat of your site, especially if you have a store. And if you have images that show you in the studio or at shows, use those. You're going to need some intro copy, maybe an artist statement or a bio, and a headshot. And I bet you that most of you already have that stuff online. Global elements are elements that appear across the entire site. And the one thing that I always forget to look at is the color palette. I'm going to show you this fun little tool here in a minute. And then I'm going to talk about the header and the footer and sidebars and widgets and templates as we get a little further into just the general structure of a WordPress site. This tool from Adobe, I found this the other day. This is like super cool. You don't have to be an Adobe Creative Cloud subscriber to use this. If you are, you can save them to your own library, but this lets you sort of create different color combinations and play around with combinations just to kind of say, here's your color triad. I'm not saying these are good or bad or indifferent, but this gives you a really interesting way to play about color and play with color and think about what you want your site to look like. So other things in page anatomy, hey, look at that. We're going to go back here for just a sec. We have a header. Yeah, it keeps going to the header. This carries your logo and it carries your main navigation and it carries pretty much whatever you want it to. You can also put a little eyebrow in that has your phone number and your email address. And this is designed on the back end as well. There is a whole customization section where you control what this stuff looks like. You can make your navigation vertical if you want. And if you go to the responsive templates, you'll notice that that navigation becomes a hamburger menu. This is a real good way to see how stuff is going to work. One of the nice things about Divi is that it gives you a way to design responsive sites with not a lot of pain. So you work on the header format, and in a minute I'm going to come back to these navigation bars, and then you can also work on your footer. The footer is a real similar element, goes at the bottom of the page, logically enough. And in this white area here, you can also have addresses and other metadata if you want. There's all kinds of stuff you can put in here. This header, this footer just has a design link, and it has my social media icons in it. I could add a secondary navigation along the bottom here. And again, that is controlled in the back end in the footer panel here. You can see that it shows this, and Divi has given me this secondary section here, which only occurs, I think it only occurs on the home page, and I haven't looked to see. And then when you're done with that, you click the publish button, it goes live to your site, and then you can go back to your WordPress backend. The main body of the site, there's one other thing that I forgot to cover here, and that is identifying your site. It normally comes up as my WordPress site, not just another WordPress thing. You want to change that. And you go into the dashboard. It has to load this every single time. And that is under site identity. And you just change it right here to whatever it is that you want the SEO for your site, the search engine optimization, to come up with. So this probably needs to be somewhat descriptive of what your site is about. It doesn't necessarily show up on the site, but Art Tribes will show up. If I go to the main page, it will show up in the headers up in here. Well, you can't see it here. So that is the site identity. The main body of the site is where all of your content, your blog posts, your pages, your products are going to go. In Divi, you have this insert module thing. This is really the guts of the framework, where you can put all kinds of different objects that do different things in your website. I'm going to show you parkerparker.net here real briefly, and I'm going to show you the editor just to kind of give you an idea of what editing a Divi site on the front end actually looks like. I'm logged in as an administrator here, so I can enable the visual builder for Divi. It's going to reload the site. And now as I scroll through it, you see all these little markers here. Each one of these markers contains, this is a full width, or a full-size image header that has 5 slides in it. I can control what slides go in that. These 5 slides are in it. Each one of those could have text overlaid in it. It's actually not overlaying the text right now. And then when I scroll down, then I have links to what I do, a link to my photographic gallery, the process, and some of the books that I'm selling. There is a section here that leads to a completely different revenue stream. This is more about helping people tell their story, whether it's design or photography or publishing a book. And here are some examples of some of the things that I have done for people. I do portraits and weddings. I do some corporate work. I shoot pictures in the studio. There's my video. There is my show schedule. This is the show schedule is built in a little plugin that builds this table for me fairly painlessly. And then at the bottom here is the footer. Every single one of these little bits and pieces is editable. There's a section. There's another section, and in that section there is a module, and then in that section there is something else. I could add another module at the bottom, there, like this little bit of text. It's really, really quite straightforward. I am not going to save that. That's just for demonstration purposes. So the next thing you need to figure out in WordPress is the difference between pages and posts. Pages, well, I guess I'm talking about posts first. Posts are dynamic content, like blog pages or products where you have content stored in a database, and then it is displayed either in sequential or chronological order. Posts typically appear in the blog section. Pages, on the other hand, are fixed content, like your homepage perhaps, or a contact form where it's not going to change over time. Your about page is probably not going to change. And they're created differently. Posts have a template that you edit once, and then every post displays the same way. But pages can be created so that they are purpose-built. They can be built from scratch. They can be built from templates in Divi. You can load pages and then throw out the stuff you don't want and add the stuff that you do want. And I will show you that in just a second here. So in order to get the navigation in the header, we need to create some blank pages for fixed content. So this is where that nice sitemap that you drew comes in handy. In that sitemap, you'll notice that I had a home page or a landing page. I had a portfolio or a galley. I had a contact form, maybe an about statement, or in this case, a whole group of artists. There are the commerce pages that WooCommerce will create for you automatically. And then you probably want to create some boilerplate, the copyright, privacy notice, and the terms and conditions page that will likely live in a secondary navigation at the bottom of your page. So once you've created these pages, here's what it looks like in the back end of the WordPress back end. I've created a home page and a contact page and a blog page and some other pages here. This is just a screenshot of that. And each one of those pages it tells you here whether it was made in Divi or it's been edited in Divi or whether it's been edited at all. And normally you would edit this in WordPress's back end. And when you click on it, you get a title up here. You get a place to enter body copy, an excerpt, a way to add a featured image. The privacy page has not been written. This is just like a word editor. Pretty basic. And you can change the structure. And if you decide that you want to edit this in Divi, then you can use the Divi builder. And what it will do, it will switch to the Divi block editor. It'll ask you if you want to choose a pre-made layout or clone a page or use existing content. I don't really want to do any of that right now, so I'm just going to close this. It's going to ask me, no, it's not going to ask me, that's good. But I wanted to save that. But Divi breaks your content down into these little blocks called sections, rows, and headers. You can have full width sections. You can have specialty sections when you want a sidebar down the side. And we'll go back to that a little bit later. The next thing you want to do from your blank pages is to create a main navigation and edit the header again. This is what that looks like in the back end. You have a list of pages on the left, and then you can select them and have them added to a menu. In this case, the main menu here, again, going to the WordPress editor. I can name this anything I want, and I can drag these around so that I can change the order of them. I can have blog be a sub item of shop if I want. But I kind of like the order that I had them in here. I can delete them. You know, I can drag them back off here. No, I don't. Well, let me delete that. I had to do it this way here. And then it puts it here, and I can put it back if I want. And then I can save it. And that's how you create a menu. Down here, I've told it to display the primary menu. And if I go into the theme customization, I can also edit a little bit how big I want it. If I want the background to be a different color, say I want to choose that background to be red, I could do that. I could use my purple again. I kind of like my menu in white, so I'm going to leave that. And now since I've made changes, I hit publish, and it automatically saves those back as my primary navigation. Now you recall over here that under the appearance here, even I do a lot of fumbling around. It's very difficult to present and work with this at the same time. The header format, it is using the primary navigation here. That's all I wanted to say here. So the one other thing that you want to do here, when WordPress gets installed right out of the box, it's set up as if it was a blog site. And under the home page, theme customization, you need to set it to use a static page, and then you pick a page. You can change a whole bunch of other stuff in there as well. I mean, I'm not going to get into it. The homepage settings just live kind of down at the bottom under the customization. You switch it from latest post to static page, and then it ends up looking like I have it here. This is the home page that I designated when I created pages rather than using a blog page. So the next thing you need to do is upload a logo, you go to the media library in the back end, and you can drag one image or a whole folder of images into the media editor, and it will upload them for you. Now, I've got a whole lot of images in my media library right now. Some of these were loaded when I was playing around with themes. But way down here is my Art Tribes logo after I've uploaded it, and it has a border around it. And this is specifically for use in the header, so it identifies my site. Now, normally, if it was a picture of something or something descriptive, I would change the title to something like perhaps something more descriptive, and I would give it a caption. And then if I needed to describe what was going on with this, this is even longer. Now, not every theme uses all of these, but typically the title and the caption will get used. And then at the very bottom of this, let's see here. And then I can choose to put that into, again, you guessed it, the theme customizer, where it gets used in one place. Down here, it shows up as the tiny little, all of these little icons at the very top of the tabs. This is what they call a fave icon. It is a little, like, I don't know, 100 pixel by 100 pixel thing that represents your site. You notice that Adobe's Acrobat, Adobe's logo shows up in theirs. You set it there, and you also change it in the Divi settings so that when you first set up Divi, it has this little round logo, and you need to change that here by uploading it into here so that your site doesn't have the Divi logo on it. Your site has the logo that you want. So that's probably the most important image that you can upload, but it's not going to be the first one. You're probably going to want to upload products and blog photo and maybe a portrait and so on and so forth. So now we get into the design part. I've already talked about it a little bit. Having a template for your base pages is kind of helpful. Divi lets you save sections or modules for reuse. It offers all kinds of free layout packs for almost every conceivable business. I used an art gallery one. And the modular approach makes it pretty easy to build quickly. We've looked at this site. I'm going to show you just real quickly how we build a page. I'm going to create a new page called Demo Page here. And I'm going to use the Divi Builder to load up one of my little layouts. I'm going to choose a pre-made layout that matches the art and design thing. I can sort by category here along the left: art and design, or business, or events, or lifestyle, or an online store. They don't have a ton of stuff for artists. I'm surprised. They have a couple of photographer things. I think they even have a potter website. You might actually see that going. There's a pottery studio here if we want the pottery studio. There is digital marketing and carpenter and makeup artists, and long down here is art show. And this shows you the 8 layouts that they've created. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an about page. So I select that and use this layout, and after a couple of minutes, it loads all of the elements and gives me the opportunity to edit that. Now this is the structure. This is confusing as hell, and it doesn't really help me here. There is a lot of stuff there. But I want to see what that looks like, so I am going to go look at that on the front end. Okay, now I'm in Visual Builder mode here, and there's a section here. This blue thing is a big section. That's my About Us section. It has a title text thing, and it has a body text thing. It's got some background images in here, these lines, and I really haven't explored where those lines are set up. I'm just going by, hey, it gave me those lines, it matches the rest of the site. I'm good with that. Now I have, here are my departments. There's a placeholder. Here's my department girlfriend here. You can change, you can go in here and you can change this copy. Lots of cool people work here. Lots of cool artists. Okay. And then there's these little guys here. This is, looks to me like a 3-column row here. This row has 3 columns, and you can change this to all kinds of different configurations, depending on what you want to do. So again, you really want to pay attention to your initial sketches, because you may want to design something that's got some columns, or maybe they don't match. And so that's kind of how you get to that. Or you can just kind of like, okay, well, I got 3 things I can talk about. Or you could change this to 2. And then within each one of these, there is a copy block. And this is where that copy got input originally. And it's just like the copy editor in the back end of WordPress. It's got the same buttons. You can edit the code. This is the actual HTML code. You go back to the visual thing where you don't have to think about it. It's like editing in Word, seriously. If you want to save your changes, you click the green check mark. If you want to cancel, you click the X. Now we have some collections down here, and then here is our footer that has been designed, and they probably picked this whole section up and just copied it when they did this layout, because this doesn't change, but it isn't actually a footer element. It is a section. Let's see, what did they put in the section here? They put in a 4-column row. So that is a real quick look at the designing capabilities of Divi. A deer just ran by my outside window. They're chasing each other. So posts are different than pages, as I talked about earlier. It relies on dynamic content. So when you write a new blog post, your main blog page will put it at the top of the blog page, which is a page. I know that's confusing, but all of the individual posts will follow the same format. So you need to design a template for those blog posts. You can use the default WordPress post template, but it might not suit your needs exactly. Elegant Themes has got some really good tutorials on how to change the post template and how to build a blog page that displays the posts the way you want to show them. They can be chronological, they can be scrolling, or they can be displayed in a grid. You can edit what elements you want to show in the sidebar by customizing it in WordPress or creating a layout for it in Divi. So now you might think this layout was edited directly when I created the post, but it wasn't. I'll show you how I did it here. Well, let's see here. Down here in Divi's options, there is a thing called the theme builder. And what this does is it lets you build templates for specific functions. And in this case, I have a template that's built for all my blog posts. And this is what the generic template looks like. There is a header bar, there is a title, and this, rather than typing in something here, this particular header is, let's see here, I've got to, it is a post archive title. And if I trash this, I can set it up with any one of these pieces of dynamic content. Now, because this is a blog post, I want the top to show the blog archive post title. So that will pull in the title from every blog post when you write them. And then this will pull in all the blog content. And if you tag a headline H1, it'll look like this. If you tag it H3, it'll look like this. This is a quote. This is an inline image. And then along the side, we have our sidebar. There is an author blurb here with my picture or whoever picture wrote the blog. If you have multiple people writing in your blog, displays what categories you've assigned to the blog post, and it displays the date. So this will look like, I'm going to close this out again. Don't need to save it. Then I'm going to show you what that looks like. So here is the title. Here is the image. I don't have any heads. I don't have any quotes. I just have a little bit of copy. It's not categorized. And if I wanted to see the other uncategorized posts, I could click on this as a user. I could see all the posts from May if I had made this clickable. So that is how you do a blog post template. The blog page itself is designed a little bit differently. Because this I wanted to display multiple blog posts at a time, I created a grid layout in Divi, and I actually created this by hand because there wasn't a template for it. So this is actually created as a page. I did it through the theme builder, but that was a mistake. I could have just as easily have gone to the blog page and invoked the builder and gone from there. I can see I'm taking a little bit of time here. Do we want to take a little bit of a break here before going further? I'm going to get into building the store. I've been talking an awful lot here, and I cannot see if anybody's been chatting or anything. I've got a full screen thing here. So let's just, I'm going to stop.
Any questions or anything, Jim, have popped up?
What's that?
I said I have not seen any questions pop up.
Okay. All right. Do we want to take a little bit of a break?
Well, it's already almost.
Yes, it is. All right. I'll keep cruising along here.
Okay.
I got all the time in the world. Well, maybe not all the time.
Yeah, I would just keep going.
Okay. So this is the main blog page, this I basically designed this by hand. I went in and created a template for this too. So if you look at the top of the page here, you'll notice that there is no edit in the visual builder, which is okay. It's built the same way. You create sections and you drop in these various little modules here. It was edited. Let's see, back here in this custom body for the blog post. And there is a very good tutorial online for creating a page that pulls in your blogs and creates your category lists and so forth. There was a pretty good tutorial for doing that. This actually is, I believe this is a pre-made section that I just kind of cobbled together. Took out some stuff that I didn't like and edited it. So posts are individual stories. They're created in the back end, and I like to actually create them in the traditional WordPress editor. It's easier, it's less distracting. I like to have a featured image at the top of the post. You have to tell WordPress what the featured image is, and if you don't have it in your media library, you've got to upload it. And the sidebar is kind of useful. I think I touched on that a little bit. But posts are best used for news and keep your customers up to date on your activities. And this is kind of how it looks when you first set up WordPress. This is the new editor. It's really bare bones and it's kind of confusing. You go into the Divi theme options and you turn on Enable Classic Editor. The latest Divi Builder experience is turned on for my posts and pages and products. But if I don't turn this on, I don't get my classic look. I find this a lot easier to deal with. And now this is the code view. And then on the back end, this is the visual view, which is, for me, it's much easier to write this way. You can pick what kind of format it's going to be. If you're going to put a video in there, it's going to ask you to insert a video in the featured image rather than an image. Here's where you select your categories right below the format. In this case, this blog post about Becky Leary, the featured painter, she's an artist. There's an event and there's a medium. And then there is a picture of Becky staring thoughtfully at her latest blank canvas. And then when you're done with that, you can preview those changes. And this is on the front end. This is not quite live yet. And it pulls up a separate page. And then you can publish that. This one's been published, so my button changes to update. And that will then appear in your list of posts. And if you want to go back and edit any of your posts, they all have the same format here. There is a title, there is I want to go back to the standard editor. And this is where we started out. So finally, we get to the store part. You can link to a pre-built store site, which is currently what I'm doing, or you can roll your own. There's a couple of ways to do it. How many products do you have? If you have less than a dozen products, you might want to do it the simplest way possible by linking to an Etsy or an indie-made site and just put links in your website. I have a Zenfolio store, which replaced individual PayPal buttons, but using buy now buttons and embedding them next to a picture is another way to do it. It works pretty well if you have a PayPal account and you don't have a lot of products and you don't have a lot of variations. But it is kind of time consuming to do that, to create every button and then to copy the code and then paste it in the WordPress or your thing. And it is possible to create variations and a drop-down menu and colors and sizes and styles, but that's kind of the hard way. So currently what I do is I am using Zenfolio as my store site because it was set up before I built my latest site. And let's see, well, let's go to this will go to, oh, let's see, I changed my URL here. So this is completely separate from WordPress. This is a pre-made site that lets people pick a gallery, pick an image, and buy prints if they like. This is a major undertaking to set this up in WooCommerce, which is why I have not gotten there yet. I have hundreds of different images with different variations. And that might be, especially if you're a 2D artist, that might be a real good alternative for you. If not, you might want to look at WooCommerce. One other note about Zenfolio is that you can self-fulfill. You can use their lab or you can use a combination of both. They have tchotchkes and all kinds of stuff that you can sell. And it's subscription based. I pay a couple $100s a year, plus a commission to them, plus a PayPal commission. So the advantages of a hosted gallery, it's turnkey. You don't have to do anything. The back-end marketing and triggered emails are already kind of set up for you. It's a robust store set up with minimal work. The disadvantages are it costs you more. You have less control over the way the site looks and feels. I mean, you can control some things, but you can't control everything. And it has kind of weak blogging capabilities. They do take a percentage and you need a PayPal account for Zenfolio. And I don't know about Photo Shelter or SmugMug, but typically they all use external payment provider. And plus, Zenfolio charges you a sales commission about 12% on top of that hosting fee. So it's fairly pricey. So let's do Woo. If you have more than a couple dozen products or products variations, it's probably a better option for you. You can control everything. Color, size, style, pricing. You can put certain products on sale. You can create coupons for events. And there is an extension in Woo for just about anything you can dream up. You can build skateboards from trucks to decks to grease. And it has the most installations pretty much of any store system that runs on WordPress. There is robust third-party support, just like WordPress, for WooCommerce. You can install it with SITEGROUND, or you can install it later. It's a free download. You can go to WooCommerce and buy hosting from them and set up a store on WooCommerce with their storefront theme. And it integrates with all these services, with Stripe and Google and Amazon and PayPal and Facebook and TaxJar, all kinds of stuff. So once you install Woo, you run the initial setup wizard and you put in a whole bunch of data about yourself. You need to tell it where you are. You need to talk about what kind of sales tax situation you have. You need to set up taxonomies, and by that I mean categories and tags and attributes for your products, so that if you have different kinds of products or like different sizes, you're going to start setting those up. It takes a while. And this is what the back end looks like. The first time you come to Woo, you will get this big purple button that says Run the Setup Wizard. It is under the WooCommerce tab, under Settings. And it will go through all of these tabs: General, Products, Shipping, Payments, Accounts and Privacy, Emails, Integration, Advanced, and it'll take you half an hour to fill all that out. But you have to do it. And then when you come back to Woo, you have a more simplified little dashboard here. You want to add products, you're going to need to personalize the store some more. You can do that. If you didn't finish setting up your shipping, you can do that, and so on and so forth. In order to sell, you do need at least one payment processor. So it's probably going to be Square or PayPal. And I have heard that the Square integration is not as good as the PayPal integration in Woo. So setting up product inventory. I went out and I shot some kind of basic little product shots to do this with. You got to have an image, you got to have a description, you got to have a price, and you have to set it up each product individually in Woo, unless, and there are quicker ways to do it. You can do it manually, one at a time, just like you write posts. You create a new product, you type in a bunch of stuff, you upload a picture. You can import a spreadsheet as a CSV file that has all those fields in a long row across the top. And it is possible to import 100 products or 200 products or 1,000 products at a time using a spreadsheet. And if you have more than 100 products, you might want to seriously consider using a plugin like WP All Import, which will automate the process even further. So this is the basic product screen. These are the things that you need to fill out. You'll notice the similarity in the interface to the post editing box. There's a little more to this. On the left here, there's general and how much inventory you have, the shipping details for the product, and so on. If you carry limited inventory, you probably don't really need to use the inventory tab here, but you can. And it's pretty flexible right out of the box. Oh, okay. And this is the 5 products that I actually set up. You'll notice that Piece has only got one piece in stock because it's a hand-carved original, whereas this silly little kid sculpture here has a whole bunch of stuff in here. So on the back end, if you need to edit something, if you need to add stock, say, if you got a few more planes in, you can go down here and you can add by managing stock here, click on that button, and now I've got 10 of them. Now, if I sell one, it will tell me that I've sold one and there'll be 9 left. So that's kind of a useful feature. It does do some inventory tracking for you. You're going to want to display the product catalog, of course. And this is very similar to the blog page. It's a grid that shows all of the products, the featured work at least, in your store. And this is laid out very similar to how I did the blog post. And I decided to have a featured artist in here again. And if I click on the product, it will take me to the product page, where if I'm a customer, I can add it to my cart. I can find out additional information about it, how much it weighs, how big it is, if anybody liked it, nobody's liked it yet. And then look at all these related products, huh? Ode to Billy Joel. So that's a basic overview of the products. And you can set it up to show individual categories on a page if you have a lot of different categories. The categories can be listed in your header menu in a submenu by creating a submenu in that primary menu. You can show a lot of detail or a little bit of detail, and you can edit this product page in Divi the same way that we did it, the same way that I showed you before for the blog page. So on default, WooCommerce creates, following new pages, it creates a shop page, which I've edited, but that is your basic product catalog. It creates a cart, creates a checkout, and it creates an account so that when your customers come to the store, they can get to their account and see where their orders are at. And it is up to you to customize them to match overall branding. So now we're finally done building the site. Don't forget to test it. And that includes proofreading all of your copy, not once, not twice, maybe 3 times. Have your brother look at it, have your mother look at it. Check all your links, both the internal links and the links to other websites. Test your e-commerce function. It's a really good idea to create a test product or two for $1 or $5 and order it yourself and see that the orders come into the back end. And then that gives you an opportunity to refund the product yourself and test the refund process. Think about setting up some marketing tools on the site. Maybe link your contact form to your MailChimp service, and so on and so forth. So if you're doing a lot of building on the site, you may want to build a temporary site and have your about page and your schedule live and build your store later. With a staging site, you can create a temporary site off of, you create your original site, and then you can create a copy that's called a staging site, or you can start out with the temporary site and build it entirely behind the scenes and then push that live. But that keeps your customers from getting confused when you're continually changing the look and feel and you're adding products and taking products out. It's real useful, and SiteGround makes it super easy. There is nothing more disconcerting than having a site go bluey when your customers are looking at it. So back up frequently, use a service like Updraft so you don't lose a ton of work. Back up after you do a day's worth of work. Before you update WordPress or Divi or any major plugins like WooCommerce. Woo just went through a major upgrade, a full version upgrade, and it broke some people's sites. So make sure you back up. So the site is live. Hey, do I have any orders coming in? Well, you can go into the back end and it'll tell you. There are all of these notifications that you can set up. There is a place on the site down here in the settings where you put your admin's email. Matter of fact, when you sign up, you have to give them an email address. And then all of these various notifications will come to you or to the customer when various things happen. These are called triggered emails. The orders live up here. Obviously, we don't have any orders yet. We could learn more. This tells us where our stock is. These are just real quick little notifications. Do I have any messages? I'm ready to launch. Yahoo! So that is pretty much the whole thing. I haven't really talked about marketing a lot, but if you don't have an email list, now is definitely the time to start. Most of these site builders have got email opt-in and contact forms built in. You can add fly-ins, pop-ups, overlays, pretty much anything you want to get your customers' attention. You can integrate with third-party email providers like Constant Contact and MailerLite and MailChimp. And you can authenticate those forms with CAPTCHA. So that's the demo. There's a lot more to it than that, as I'm finding out every day. There's always a problem to solve and a lot of solutions. Finding them is also oftentimes the tricky part. So patience and perseverance are key. WordPress looks easy, but it is incredibly deep, and I have been working with it for a long, long time. So, you know, we didn't even get into responsive design much, or animation, or any of the complicated stuff like full width sliders and video. I could go on, but I'm not going to. I bet you're all really glad I'm stopping talking. There is a list of resources. It is on parkerparker.net/index.php/resources for WordPress webinar. I will send that to Nikki and she can get it out to everybody. And now,
well, everybody's also going to get a copy of this video who signed up for it. So then that'll help. Here I am. I'm back.
hello there.
Hi. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Like I said, everybody, once this is done, Nick, the Art Fair Operations Director, also dabbles in a bunch of technical stuff for us. We'll clean up the video a bit, take off the beginning when I was playing around getting things set up, and then he'll put it up on our YouTube channel, and we'll go ahead and send out links. I don't see any questions. Let me look down here on the bottom here. Nothing's come in, but I'm sure, oh, how do I add a search section to a current WordPress site?
What are you using as a, what is your theme, Lisa? That's kind of an open-ended question. With this, you should be able to just go into your site settings and turn it on. I'm not on share right now. Otherwise, I would go back there and find that. With your theme, you may actually be able to add a share box. You can also build a sidebar that has got the search function in it. And
that somebody else built her site.
In order to actually edit your site, you need to have the username and password to go into the back end and edit it.
She does have access to it.
So I would look under your site settings first off, and then possibly within the theme, if you're using a framework like Divi or Elementor or any of the major themes, you can do it that way, and you can also create a search widget. I didn't talk about widgets much. There are a whole bunch of native WordPress widgets that work with all of the themes.
It says theme is responsive.
Yeah, I got that up too. I would go into your WordPress backend and go to the widgets and add a widget to either your main navigation or add it to a sidebar navigation that you're using. If it's blog setup, you can add it to your main sidebar number 1. You should be able to just add the search function. You can also, if it's blog based, you can also put in categories that let you just click on the category and then it'll display all of the posts that are tagged with that category. You can use a tag cloud as a search. There's a lot of different ways to do it. That's kind of an open-ended question. I have another question here. This is an easy one to answer. Can I answer this one?
Absolutely.
Is SiteGround user-friendly with Apple? Absolutely. I am an Apple person, like since 1985. And that's all I use. I built most of this site and other stuff on my laptop. Divi does not work well with an iPad because the iPad is touch-based and you really need a mouse to do it. But it works fine on a laptop or a desktop. WordPress itself is fairly usable on a mobile device. So let's see here. Square and Woo. I don't have any personal experience with Square and Woo. I have not actually set up Woo. Well, I've set it up and taken it down, and I'm testing another, a photographer gallery, the Next Gen Gallery. But I have heard that there are some glitches. You can't tie your inventory on Square to inventory on Woo. They don't necessarily update each other. What I have read is it's mostly sync issues. It's not actually taking the money. It is syncing product up. If you have a robust Square store, you might find it easier to link the Square store to a WordPress site rather than rebuilding it using Woo and then trying to link to the Square backend. Does that help?
I think so.
I hate this Zoom when you can't actually see people.
Right.
You know,
It does make it a little bit hard there.
It's more fun when you have a whole screen full of faces, you know, happy faces.
Well, look, here's my happy face. Right?
Thank you all for coming and
Any other
putting
questions?
up with me.
Okay. I just wanted to go over that we also have some other virtual opportunities for our artists right now. We have kicked off our virtual art series. So hopefully you've had a chance to tune in for happy hour or coffee hour. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. is happy hour with Kim Arden, a polymer clay jewelry artist. If you haven't registered for it, you still have time. We encourage you to follow along with our art fair, our virtual art series on Facebook. We've got it, you can sign up on Facebook for it. The link is there. These weekly virtual events will give artists a platform to share their story, sell their work, give a studio tour, demo their work, all while connecting with art lovers virtually. We've had two or three of them already now, and they were really successful. And by now, hopefully you've seen the call out for the happy little videos of Bob Ross inspired art competition. We are inviting our artist members to participate by submitting an engaging and entertaining video of you creating your style of artwork in your home or your studio, but they should be inspired by Bob Ross in some way, whether it's his signature look, his hosting style, or his subject matter. Really, I want to see everybody with big afros, okay, please? All mediums are accepted. There will be cash prizes awarded to the top 3 videos. $250, $150, and $100. The application deadline is this Friday, May 15th. So please submit your videos this week. And we've also launched our new online gallery shop and are currently accepting work from our artist members. We have sent emails on this, but you can apply online at our www.gutmangallery.com, and you'll find an application link under the opportunities for artists. Okay. Oh, there's another question popped through here, I think.
Yeah, domain name through GoDaddy. Can you just apply it to whichever website platform? Absolutely. Matter of fact, all of my domain names are hosted in GoDaddy, at GoDaddy. And then you go into the domain name server record, the DNS record at GoDaddy. And depending on if you have email on GoDaddy, you don't want to change the entire DNS record. You just want to change the A name, which is what points to the website. And you change that to the IP address that your web host gives you. And the IP address and the software is, the IP address and the software is completely independent of each other. You know, if you have a web host and they'll give you an IP address. It doesn't matter what software you load up on it. But you do need to tell your domain host where your website lives, because the domain name server is a little bit like the Yellow Pages, tells you where your business is located on what street and what the street address is. And that is the important thing. Everybody looks it up. When you go and type in a URL, it goes to your nearest domain name server, whether it's Comcast or whatever. And Comcast has you listed as such and such IP address, and it points that request to that IP address. So Steve Daniel, how can you change the background color of a single page? You could create a single page. Depends on whether you're using a template to display the page or not. But there is, in the old HTML days, there is a background tag that goes up in the body. It really depends on how your site is set up, Steve.
All right, any other questions? Okay, yay, thank you so much. This was really helpful. And like I said, I'll go ahead and email this video after it's all been edited out to everybody, so you can have it on hand to look back on at any chance you need.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions you think of later, you can email me and I will try to answer them and get back to you.
All right, great. Or if you need to email me, I can also send it to Jim as well.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time when we have another webinar. We're working always to figure out other ones we can come up with.
Yahoo.
Woohoo!
Bye, everybody.
Bye.